Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing Adventures, and on this series we're going to be installing Nolo design Cleaver roof rack system on the 2025 Honda Pilot Trailsport. Alright, so what an exciting day as I'm finally installing the roof rack system on my Pilot Trailsport. And I've been wanting to install this for a long time because, well, as you all know, I've been using Thule Aeroblade edge bars on my Pilot to mount the rooftop tent and other accessories. And you know what, for the most part, it held up fine. But I did notice some drawbacks with my current setup. One, there's significant amount of noise coming from the roof when the car is in motion. Now, this was somewhat expected because there's a gap between the roof and the rooftop tent. So channeling all that wind through the gap would cause the noise. And you know what? It wasn't like it's overbearing noise, but it was just kind of getting annoying on a long drive. Two, the rooftop tent had a fair amount of movement when the car was in motion. You know, honestly, I didn't feel it, but I saw it like vibrating constantly. And this is because the rooftop tent is held by two bars and they were positioned somewhat in the middle of the rooftop tent. And with the wind hitting directly on the rooftop tent, it was causing it to vibrate. So, you know, thinking ahead, I don't know how much more the roof rails could take the constant vibration in the long run. So I didn't feel safe having the rooftop tent mounted with the crossbars. 3, I noticed substantial amount of MPG drop with the rooftop tent. I mean, obviously when you add more weight to the car and disturbing the aerodynamics, of course you're going to notice drop in the MPG. But I was getting around 16 miles per gallon on average with the rooftop tent. And at times it went down to like 14. And I actually tried everything to bring up my MPG by easing the throttle, driving mostly on the highways and everything else. But still, the best was like mid-16s. And now that I've been driving without the rooftop tent for the last month, I'm back to averaging high 19s. And I wasn't even cautious about it. Oh, and I'm still on my 32-inch tires. And lastly, security. Well, since the rooftop tent is mounted on the bar with just bolts and they're fully exposed, so anyone with the wrong intention could easily come by, unbolt it, and just take it. So those are the reasons why I wanted to install a roof rack system, because it should solve pretty much all my concerns. For one, it'll eliminate or lessen the wind noise because it has a fairing. 2, no movement from the rooftop tent because I could put the bolts onto each ends of the rooftop tent or even put a third one in the middle. 3, hopefully better MPG because with the fairing, it should direct better airflow with it. And finally, better security because the bolts holding the rooftop tents are not going to be exposed. And you actually have to get into the vehicle and open the moonroof to get to the bolts. So that's why I got it. Now, the roof rack is made with strong aluminum and thickened steel legs that's capable of holding 165 pounds of dynamic load weight, which is when it's in motion, and 600 pounds of static load weight, which is when it's stationary. And the rack can be had with either a raw finish or black powder coat. And they have 2 different styles of roof rack. One is called Katana, and it extends out on the front of the roof rack. And don't quote me on this, but I think it's either for LED light bars or to hold a brush cables. But I don't need it. And to me, it kind of looks a bit awkward. So I opt to getting the Cleaver, which has a cleaner look to me. And in the box, we have everything that we need to mount the roof rack and all the hardware, and they're labeled, handwritten labels on them. A lot of bubble wraps, but it's packaged very well. All right, and check this out. This is how thorough Ian is. He has a shipping checklist to mark everything that's required to mount the roof rack and instructions. So he printed out the instructions for us, or if you're new school, you can scan the QR code to get the instructions. And some stickers. All right, so I laid all the pieces down first to get an idea how it's going to be mounted. And to prep the roof, first we need to remove the roof bars if you have them. And the factory ones are bolt-on, so they're really easy to remove. So after the bars are removed, and we need to remove the roof rails. So remove 3 plastic side panels on each side of the factory roof rails using a true removable tool, and they should pop right out. And now you can access the T45 bolts that's holding the roof rails. So remove total of 6 bolts on each side of the roof rail. And once the bolts are removed, lift the roof rails off the vehicle. Next, unbolt 6 T45 bolts to remove the factory mounting feet from the rain gutter on each side. And we're going to be reusing the bolts, so put them aside for later use. At this point, check for any excess sealant around the stud and the rain gutter, and if it's necessary, remove the excess sealant. This will ensure that the new brackets will sit flush in the gutter. Once you have it prepped, let's move on to assembling the roof rack. Start by assembling the front and rear load bars first by loading 4 1/4" -20 carriage bolts, 2 in each channel, into the 80/20 crossmember. Next, by using the provided M8 carriage bolts and nuts, assembled 4 adjustable leg kits loosely for final adjustment. And attach it to the bars by using the 2 of the 1/4" -20 carriage bolt that we inserted, and attach the 2 stiffeners to the end edge of the crossmember by using the other 2 carriage bolts. And make sure these are as square as possible to save you from any trouble later. And tighten the bolts down, as they will be hard to reach beyond this point. And set the width of the legs to about 49 inches. This will allow you to drop it onto the front mounting points. And attach the other leg kits to one of the bars and set the width about 45 inches. And this will be the rear load bar. Once those are set, place the bar with the orange stiffer onto the front factory mounting post, and the bar without the stiffer onto the rearmost mounting post. And use the factory T45 nuts that we removed earlier to install the legs and torque it to 14 foot-pounds. Next, install the main legs in the middle of the roof on both sides by reusing the factory T45 nuts and torque it to 14 foot-pounds. Next, assemble the side panel by placing the front panel down next to the rear panel and connect it with the panel link with the provided M8 carriage bolts and nuts. And make sure you're placing the links on what will be the inside of the rack once it's lined up. And torque it to 16 foot-pounds. Next, mount the side panels to the middle main legs by using the M8 carriage bolts and nuts. And attach the panels to the front and rear load bars by using the provided black stainless steel M6 hardware. And once those are set, you can now place the rest of the bars onto the side panels except for the frontmost bar. Next up, assemble the frontmost crossmember by placing the rubber bumpers approximately 8 inches from the ends and 1 in the center. And different size bumpers are provided based on the final assembly, and they should be compressed between the crossmember and the front fairing. But I installed 2 thick bumpers on each ends and 3 thinner bumpers in the middle just to be safe. Next, slide 2 1/4" -20 carriage bolts onto each side of the crossmember and install the crossmember at the frontmost space of the side rails, placing the rubber bumpers forward and carriage bolts pointing down. And line the bolts with the stiffener and tighten the nuts. And it was getting really late, so I decided to finish it up next morning. All right, it's the next day and the installation is coming out fairly nicely. It just, it takes a lot of time to put all these bolts in and build it. But yeah, we're almost done, and all we have to do is add the fairing and adjust the roof rack to the right position and the height, and we should be good to go. So let's do that now. So install the edge protectors on the front fairing. And place the fairing on the vehicle and align the fairing mounting holes with the side panels and attach it with 4 M6 bolts, but leave them loose for final fitment. And the fairing is designed to contact the roof, so I would suggest putting a PPF film to protect the paint. At this point, you should have all the load bars installed and affixed to the vehicle. So now check and make sure the roof rack is centered on top of the vehicle as well as squared up and flat, which was a lot of back and forth movement to make sure it was dead center and flat. And once you checked over the rack and everything's squared up and flat, finish it up by tightening the MA nuts on the adjustable legs and rest of the bolts. And once all the bolts are tightened, you're all done. And this thing feels very solid and looks good on the car. But if I'm nitpicking, I wish the M8 bolts were blacked out like the rest of the bolts. And looking at his website, it's supposed to come with the PPF film, but it was missing on mine. But other than that, so I'm very happy with the outcome. All right. So what do you guys think? I think it looks fantastic. And after all the bolts were tightened, it was very solid as of rock. And I felt confident to stand on there. So yeah, I'm very happy with the outcome. However, I did underestimate this project as I started around 10 p.m. last night and worked till about 2 a.m. and restarted this morning at 11, and now it's 12:30. Now, all in all fairness, I was filming too, but still, it took way longer than I expected. But this is still way easier to install than other roof rack systems that I've seen, like the ones for the Subaru Outback Wilderness and the Toyota 4Runner, where you have to take out the whole inside roof liner. So compared to that, it was way easier. And plus, there's no modification that's needed. So just take your time lining up everything, and anyone with a basic tool can tackle this project with no problem. So just give yourself plenty of time. So hopefully with no-load design roof rack system, all my concerns are addressed. And if you are carrying a lot of load on your roof, a roof rack system like this is highly recommended. And I'll have a separate video showing how to install the rooftop tent and other accessories back on the Pilot, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And I'll also make a long-term video after I put some miles on this. Anyways, so that's all I have for you guys today, and I'll leave the link to this roof rack in the video description along with the discount code for you guys. And if this video was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to follow on my Pilot build journey. And check out my other Pilot videos to get more ideas and directions to modding your Pilot. Also, share this video with fellow Pilot owners who is serious about building their own Pilot. So, thank you all for tuning in today, and until next time, keep chasing adventures, and I'll see you all on my next video.